Hey there, everybody. This video is our review of The Bachelor Episode 7, and you rest assured, we're going to talk about everything that happened with Matt James tonight. But before we do that, if you are aware of what's been going on in Bachelor Nation over this past week with Rachael Kirkconnell, who is on this season, with Chris Harrison, the host of the show, you probably are aware there's a number of other things that we need to talk about from the jump.
For sure. We will absolutely be talking about what happened on this episode, but we are going to start this review off by talking about these things because it's important to talk about it, and we hope that you will listen to us.
Well, and as we get into it, if you enjoy this discussion, subscribe to the channel. We are here every week talking about The Bachelor. I know this has been a very strange season. It's been a pretty rough week. I would love to say that there's going to be happiness at the end of the season, but honestly, at this point, I'm really not sure.
Yeah, I'm really not sure because sort of after a bunch of this stuff has come out this week, it feels very certain that Rachael is winning this season. And that's just my theory on it, with sort of a few things that are out there and the edit that she's getting and the way that Chris Harrison has reacted to everything, and him saying that she wasn't at the Women Tell All. Well, if she's not there, then she's at the end.
I am very concerned about Rachael winning this season, especially because now that we know the other women, and we'll get to them more later, since I like a lot of the other women left, and I would have rooted for Matt to be with like a Michelle, who I think is amazing. It's Michelle. See, we can like still
so much.
She's great. It's just like I want to root for that, but instead we have to talk about this. So let's try our best to set the table here.
Yeah.
So really, for weeks now, there have been various stories suggesting controversy surrounding Rachael and apparent problematic comments or at least social media likes that were coming out suggesting particular viewpoints. And really everything sort of tipped over the edge when a photo, I initially saw it on Reddit, surfaced of Rachael at what is effectively a sorority party themed around a plantation, and you had people there wearing, pre-Civil War dresses, and just the racism of the existence of this event. I cannot even fathom it. I grew up in the South. I never saw anything like this. I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, I grew up in Canada, so it was a little bit different up there, but and I grew up in the 70s, and I knew that this stuff was not okay back then in the 70s, the 80s, and 90s.
Yeah.
It is mind-blowing to me that someone in 2018, this is just a few years ago, thinks that this is somehow okay when it's never been okay. It should never have been okay. But the weirdest part of this was watching Chris Harrison go on to talk to Rachel Lindsay.
Yeah.
And defend what was going on and saying that we should wait to hear from Rachael, what she has to say about it. Well, there's no real anything that you need to say about it. The pictures are out there. She attended this party. The only thing that we really need to hear is an apology and what you're going to be doing to move forward from it. There is no let's really wait to hear what she has to say. And it just all felt really weird and awful, and I just didn't understand why Chris was coming from the position that he was coming from, knowing that this show has had sort of this racism that's been around it for years now. And you're speaking to Rachel Lindsay about this and trying to defend a plantation party, and Rachael actually even saying, well, if I went to this party, what role would I play? And not hearing Chris just straight out say, you're right.
Yeah.
This is done. I am wrong. None of that came out. He just kept going. Eventually, he ended up like putting out this statement instead of actually really addressing it. He is the host of The Bachelor. He has a platform to be able to speak about this stuff. Instead, he's decided that he's going to take a hiatus from the one episode that's going to be left for him to talk on and then presumably just come back for the Bachelorette like nothing happened. So it feels a lot like he's going to disappear, hope it blows over, and then move on.
All of this, to me, it just feels like a needle in the eye of everything that we have seen with this franchise over the years. And, we've had a lot of fun with this franchise. It can be silly, it can be over the top, but the issues surrounding Chris and him just completely, I don't know if it is him just missing the point, if this is him just being so clouded in misjudgment, but his defense of Rachael was appalling on so many different levels, and I'm shocked that he did this, and I think it also speaks to just sort of the environment that has sort of been created through all these past controversies that have existed on The Bachelor, where I feel like The Bachelor's been let off the hook way too easy on a number of different things because they can sort of excuse things away as, oh, it's just a silly show, emotions are heightened when they're on the show, people do ridiculous things, and it's sort of like, you can't excuse this away, Chris, and you can't excuse yourself away from the show when really what Chris should be doing, if Chris is going to remain the host of The Bachelor, and, we don't have any say or control in that, obviously, but if he's going to remain the host of The Bachelor, there needs to be, legitimate accountability. 90 to 95% of people who watch this show will have never seen the statements that he put out, his apologies on social media, or anything else. Him not being there to address things on the after the final rose, the one thing that's left, like you said, that does feel like it is sweeping the issue under the rug, because I don't know now what the odds are that they're going to address anything on the after the final rose.
Yeah, and also just putting out a statement, like a written statement on social media or whatever. I'm not saying that Chris or Rachael didn't write their statements, but maybe they didn't. I don't really know. And it is a very different time where people are allowed to get away with just putting out a written statement. It reminds me of when Berger broke up with Carrie on Sex and the City and stuck a Post-it note on her table that was like, I can't, I'm sorry, don't hate me. And that's what it feels like here, where it's just like, I'm really sorry, I won't do it again. I've been humbled by this experience, and I'll take a hiatus from this one episode, and I'll see you on The Bachelorette. It's just not enough. I need to see somebody actually apologize and take accountability for it so that I can actually see if that person is being truthful. You're not hiding behind a computer screen. You're actually putting yourself out there. So I think it's a huge, huge missed opportunity to actually address the problems with the show that have been going on for a very long time now. And after seeing Chris act this way, I mean, Chris is part of this problem. Yeah. He is the face of the show. Yeah. He needs to go on to that after the final rose with Rachael, because that's who I think is probably winning after seeing that interview where he was like, oh, Rachel's not at the at the Women Tell All. Well, if she's not there, then she's probably at the end. You can't just abandon Matt, the first Black Bachelor, and pretend like stuff isn't happening. I mean, even the Bachelor's whole social media account, they've just have not been promoting this episode at all since this happened. It's like one of the first times they've just been a ghost.
Yeah, it's like I didn't check it in the hour leading into this show, but 1 hour in, the only thing the Bachelor Twitter was like, oh, the Bachelor's on tonight. That's all. Okay, the thing here that bothers me the most about actually, I don't know if I say bother me, but it really bothers me is the excuse that Chris sort of handed out there, that there's some sort of, woke mentality of people who are coming out and attacking, because that word, it has been just decimated online from what it actually originally was intended to be.
Yeah, it just needs to stop. Woke is not the word. It is just people that are calling out racism. That's what it is. Yeah. And there's nothing to be ashamed of with that. There's nothing to feel weird about. Yeah. There's nothing that's woke about this. It is just people calling out racism, which is what everyone should be doing. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I don't really get why there's anybody who's like, this is not okay. And I've seen comments of people online that are like defending Chris, like what he said is okay, and I don't get it. And if you're coming here to say that too, don't.
Yeah, it's like the phrase cancel culture. It's like, this is not about canceling Chris Harrison. This is about like holding Chris Harrison to account and actually making him acknowledge and recognize the mistakes that he's made, but also the effect that his mistakes have on other people when you have one of the biggest names in reality TV going on a talk show and basically saying that these things that Rachael did, they're no big deal and we should just have grace and wait for her to speak out. Like, there's so many problems here.
Yeah.
Like, the last thing I'll say, at least on this, is just that Bachelor producers, you gotta get yourselves together with this casting process. I understand you have dozens of people going on the show every season, but if people on social media can find out this stuff, you gotta find a way to vet people better, because you're in a situation here where the supposed possible winner of your season is someone who has engaged in these past racist actions, and that is going to take away from whatever the ending of this show could be.
Yeah. Where she may end up with the first Black Bachelor. It is also then difficult with Matt coming onto the show as the first Black Bachelor to not know any of this stuff and trust that the production team has vetted people properly and are not going to bring in his next wife or his first wife that's someone who went to a plantation party. It is just so infuriating. And I can't imagine what he's going through sitting at home, sort of seeing this stuff come up. If this is the choice he made, what he's like, man, well, I look like an idiot, and now I'm in this situation. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Great experience.
One other thing I forgot to mention that I really wanted to mention is I don't even know if ABC's going to have an After the Final Rose now, to be honest, because they didn't do one for Tayshia's season. They said it was because of the pandemic in part.
So really, Chris Harrison is excusing himself from no work.
Yeah, it's possible they do that again. They just say, okay, we're not going to do it after the Final Rose. And if that happens, I'm just going to be straight up infuriated. But we will move on. We will actually talk about the episode of The Bachelor.
We are 12 minutes in. If you guys have stuck with us through this, we're ready to rock and roll.
Okay, the thing is that this, I don't know if it is just the shadow of everything with Chris Harrison and Rachael, but it's like this episode did not really excite me at pretty much any turn whatsoever.
I think the biggest problem with this season is that even before Chris basically said that Rachael's a winner or that she's at the end, it's been really clear that Rachael is the clear favorite throughout all of this. She's really the only person that was like, I'm falling in love, and he's like, me too. And, we even had a tonight as well with Jasenia, who's like, I'm falling in love with you. And he's like, thank you. I'm like, oh no. Okay. And that's sort of where it is, where we're now at this point where we saw women going home tonight. And it was like, well, of course these women are going home. He's going to end up with Rachael. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it all feels pretty much inevitable unless some crazy turn happens at the hometowns or overnights or something like that.
Yeah, because even at the end of the group date, it was just like, Rachael, here's the rose, let's go. I was like, wow, that's kind of cold.
Yeah, Bri quit her job in order to stay on the show. How do you not give Bri the group date rose unless you've already decided that Rachael is your person?
Well, I'm guessing with, the whole extra time thing going on, you're just like, this is my person. So, no, it feels quite obvious that that's who it is.
Yeah. I cannot remember more than 10 seconds of the Rachael and Matt James conversation, and yet I can recount Bri talking for 3 minutes about her job and what that meant for her and how she decided that it's such a big thing. I know Bri still got a rose. I know she's going to hometown dates, but come on, Matt James.
I know. And then we had Kit quitting, which I'm sure all the producers were behind the scenes getting huffy and puffy about it, because I am sure they wanted her mother on the show for the hometown dates. But that was felt a lot like, oh, Kit didn't get the rose. You can't fire me. I quit is what that kind of felt like. Because if she got that rose, she wasn't quitting tonight.
The producers, they had Cynthia Rowley on speed dial. They were so ready to call her up and to get a full runway show at the hometown date.
Yep.
didn't happen because Kit, I almost want to say the word literally incorrectly, and I know this is like everyone's pet peeve, but she literally picked up her ball and went home.
I know.
When she realized she didn't get the group date rose.
Yep.
The truth of the matter here is, and I'm not trying to be mean to Kit, it's just, I don't think Kit was ever really ready. It seemed like Kit wanted to go and have a very specific life after all this, and that's great she has such a specific life plan.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, at 21, I wasn't as well thought out as sort of like where Kit is, where she's like, I want to finish school, I want to do this, I want to do that. Like, that's amazing that she is actually sort of that well thought out. But clearly, Matt is also in sort of a spot where I know he was like, we'll go with the flow. But really, he's there for a wife and to get married and to move forward. He's not necessarily looking for a wife 5 years down the road.
I am really curious now. We'll never know, but if Kit stayed, did Kit get a hometown date? Production would have wanted it. I just wish I had an answer to it.
I think probably. I mean, Matt already knows who he's choosing. I mean, by this point in the process, most leads know who they're going with. Yeah,
and I think at that point they may just be like, okay, who do I want to have a fun hometown date with? Let's say daughter of like extremely famous designer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Abigail now, because I am infuriated by this as well. Are you ready to wind ourselves up for a long Abigail rant?
Yeah, I knew that this was absolutely coming when it was like, oh, Serena's getting a second date and Abigail's getting no date. I was just like, okay, that means it's definitely not happening for her. And even when Jasenia was getting her dates, like, usually the people who are getting their first one-on-ones that late, he's not interested in you.
Do we need to go all the way back to the days of Ryan P. crying in the bushes when he got his first, like, one-on-one date? Yeah, like, it happens every time. But Abigail, she got your first impression rose. She got a group date rose.
Yeah.
The excuse that Matt gave her is by far one of the worst excuses I have ever heard on this show, where he told her, I went and I explored some other relationships because our relationship was so strong, and then those other relationships got too strong. Really? You think, Matt, that how did that happen? Did you ever consider at some point, you know what? If I give Abigail a one-on-one date, maybe my relationship with her will be strong as well.
It was real weird.
It was terrible. Like, I give Abigail so much respect for just not standing up and walking out at that moment. I would have just been like, you know what? Insert words that cannot be said on this channel. I am out of here. I'm too good for this.
Like when Piper got eliminated tonight, she just walked right into the van and left. There was no like, oh, hug, it was really nice meeting you. I hope you find it. Nope, she just walked right into that van, closed the door, and was like, and I'm out.
Listen, Piper had a bad episode. Like, first she was...
Good for her.
First she got so turned up over Heather, and then... She gets...
Oh, God, we gotta talk about all the women that I got. That was so uncomfortable to watch. It was so cruel. Women were like, you're a virus, go home. She's crying. I think it was Serena was like, go cry in the confessional. I don't want to see your tears. Someone called her the B word. I think it was Kid. Like, they were cruel. So cruel.
Heather didn't do anything either other than just showing up. Like, yeah, she should have known that this was probably not going to end well at this point, but she didn't call anyone names. She apologized for, taking attention from some of them. Like, she was as polite can be in that situation.
Yeah, and I mean, she came in so late. I mean, I actually don't even know why these women were worried about it. It's a week before hometown dates. Was Matt really going to send one of them home and keep Heather? There's not enough time to get to know her in that one little period of time. She was just too late. She's not a threat.
He would have had to have had a light shining down from the heavens. This is the love of my life that I am going to marry moment in order to keep her.
No,
it
wasn't. They reacted so badly. And then afterwards, he's like, good for you guys. You guys all handled that like champs. I'm just like, oh my goodness, Matt must be at home tonight just shaking his head at himself.
Like,
that he's so clueless on what is going on after Katie told him multiple times what was going on in this house.
should have kept Katie, Matt. This could have been avoided, but no, you friend zoned Katie. This is what happens to you.
Yep.
Okay, we'll talk briefly about these one-on-one dates because Serena P's one-on-one date, like, I have seen them do variations of this before.
Yeah, they have.
Not once have I ever actually seen the people on this date, like, both legitimately enjoy it. It is always uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is, and I think that it's just it's a big push to push people to be physical when maybe they're not ready to, and that part of this show has always made me uncomfortable in general because everybody does move at different paces, and it's okay to not be physical on the show at all and still end up at the end of all of this. That's why the whole fantasy suite dates, my least favorite episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the romantic stuff beforehand, but like I don't need this other stuff. That's private for people. Some people not so much, but private for other people. And some people, like Serena's just like, I'm just not there for this yet. But now all of a sudden I have to be.
Tinfoil hat time.
Yep.
Production.
Of course.
They knew that Serena would be the most uncomfortable with this.
Of course. Of course.
That's why she got the second date.
Of course.
Serena gets the rose. She's moving on. Rachel gets the rose. I don't know what to say about Jasinia's date other than just like cars, I guess.
Yeah, that date was garbage. That wasn't that great. And there was no way to really build up anything between them anyways. You had another person in the car. You're thrill seeking. There's nothing that's really like bonding you together. But again, she got it so late in the show that it's kind of like you weren't getting chosen if this is your first one-on-one.
No, that's where it just feels like with even the people left. Like Michelle, she's in the top 4. We both love her. I think we would both love for her to be the final rose.
Yeah.
How much airtime has Michelle gotten these last couple of episodes, like since her one-on-one?
No, not a lot. But I mean, that happened last season as well with Tayshia as well. Yeah, Brandon had like this great sort of date at the beginning, and then he was just kind of disappeared for a whole bunch of it. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, hometown dates. Brandon's still here?
Okay, it is a situation where they forget about people here and there who I think don't end up getting the final rose.
I think the biggest issue with this season is just that they casted way too many villains. Way too many villains. So many people that were just like really mean, that they took up so much screen time that we ended up losing some of the spark of the love that can come out of the show, but just didn't really, cultivate as well as it could have because it was just mean girls dramas since the beginning.
We have hometown dates coming.
Yes.
I want to be a hopeful person here. I want to put on my optimism hat and say maybe we'll have some fun moments. Maybe we'll have some romance. Maybe we'll have the cranky family member
That's
that
right.
I can laugh at.
I love that.
That is my dream every time we get this. We're in a dark place right now. There's no denying that. This has been a rough week for Bachelor Nation. But
yeah, it has been.
we'll see where things go from here. But, let us know what you thought about this episode and your thoughts on the Chris Harrison situation with Rachael. And if you guys did enjoy this video, subscribe, give us a like. You can support us further by checking those links to the store, our Patreon, and we will see you here next time.